Good morning, everyone. All right, guys, let's get this day started. You ready, Fernando?
Ready.
All right, we have a Honda Accord that we are putting this guy in here. This is a Rockford P300 112. You guys have seen these before. We've actually installed this in his previous car. He just got this new used Honda Accord and he wants to install it here. The cool thing about this is this has the factory premium sound system. How you can tell if your car has that factory premium sound system in an Accord is this guy right here. Factory subwoofer. Now a couple things to note about that is you're also going to have a subwoofer volume control built into the head unit. This makes your life a lot easier. For one, you don't have to go high level. I know what you're thinking, right? Cool. Everyone knows about these Honda Accords having that cool automatic noise canceling BS. That's this thing right here. That little microphone there. And of course there's another one up in here. And if you pull this thing out, there's a silver box located up there that if you unplug it, it'll kill that. That just adds to the pain of doing this install. Where's the factory amplifier? Because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the factory amplifier. It is located right here. Right here. So pull this down, pull this out, and you can grab the plugs. This box right here is the factory amplifier. And this plug right here is the input plug from the radio. It's got a bunch of thin wires as opposed to the fat wires which are here. What we want to do is find the dedicated subwoofer output, and how we're going to do that, as you saw, we had the radio on subwoofer. We're going to play a tone, something like 50, 60, 70 hertz, and then we're going to turn the volume up to a reasonable amount, and then while the volume is up, we're going to go ahead and look at the output voltage. We're going to use an RTA, but the RTA has the output voltage up in the top corner, so as long as you have a digital multimeter set to AC, it will do the same thing. We can see the numbers, and it looks cooler on these videos for you guys to see it. Let's go ahead and do some testing. Full disclosure, this isn't the first one of these we've done. We've done a bunch of these, so I actually have cool notes right here. This is why taking notes is so important, because it saves you time. But we want to show you how you do it, so here we go. So we have our smartphone over here. It is playing 50 hertz. It's hooked into, yeah, you get the idea. All right, so we went ahead and we're testing the first set of inputs here, and you can see we get 1.1 volts, and it's showing a constant 50 hertz. Go ahead and adjust the subwoofer volume, Fernando. All right, so we get no change when he's doing that. So now what we want to do is we want to just keep going down the pairs here until we find the one that gets adjustment when we are hitting that. Now I'm going to fast forward and tell you that it is the last set on here. Go ahead and adjust it for me. So as he turns it up, we get more, turn it down, and we get less. So there's a brown and yellow here in this plug, and we know that these are going to be our subwoofers. Now all we have to do is connect an RCA to this, plug it into our P300. We'll get to retain the factory subwoofer volume control, and we don't have to worry about the ANC because the ANC isn't affected on this side of the controller. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take one of those cool RCNs that we cut off the LP72s that you guys always see we use. We have tons of those RCNs. We just have to solder it onto that. Now of course getting the signal is only half of what we need. The subwoofer does have auto turn on, but wouldn't it be nice if there was also a remote turn on? Well, guess what? There is. There's a light green wire in the same harness that is the remote turn on. Now how you're going to measure for that, because I've told you but you still need to be able to figure out on your own at some point, is you're going to take your digital multimeter, you're going to set it to V voltage with the line with the dots, that's DC. Let's turn on the radio. So what you want to do is start with the amplifier plugged in before you turn on the car. Once the car is on, go ahead and unplug that same plug, pull it back down. Now this harness has two green wires on it, two light green. There's one on one side and one on the other. Go ahead and put our positive probe in one. We'll go to ground. We get nothing. All right, we'll go to the other one. And there we go. We have 12 volts. Hey Fernando, could you turn this off again? Thank you. And it shuts off. So we've found our remote turn on. So we're gonna tap this for remote. We're gonna tap the other two for our signal RCA. We're done. That's pretty cool, right? Alright, let's get our RCA attached. Now this wire is super thin, so unless you want to tear it, be very careful. We're using our flush cut trimmers because they're super sharp to just push the shielding up a little bit. The tape we're using is the high temp Tessa tape. I like to use that when I'm wrapping around the wires, and then when we're done we'll put a second layer of regular Tessa tape over the whole outside. And when you're wrapping the tape, try to keep it as tight as possible. Alright, so once you're done, just go ahead and plug it back in. Since we ran back a double RCA, we're gonna go ahead and put in a set of Y jacks so we have something to plug them both into. And we'll just add some heat shrink so that it all stays together nice and tight. Alright, so we've gone ahead and added on some quick disconnects for the remote turn on. Make sure that you put the insulated side towards the amplifier. That way if you ever unplug it, it's not an exposed end like this. Our RCAs. When you're zipping up RCAs like this, make sure that there's some give, like it'll rock back and forth. You don't want these to be so tight that they eventually just pull themselves out. So just, you know, they're not gonna pull apart, these are gonna hold them. Don't make your connection the reason why they pull apart. All right, so this is all done here. Let's get this side panel back in. Now something else to keep in mind when you're doing one of these, if you have, let's say, a 4 or 5 channel amplifier, they're all right there, left, right, front, rear. If you wanted to just solder in 5 RCAs, you could. What you'd want to do is, when you're using your voltmeter, you'd want to fade it to, let's say, just the driver's front, probe those wires and find out which one has sound. That would be your driver's front. Do the same for all the other 3, and then you'll know which one is left, right, front, rear. Yeah, you can do that. And then if you want to do what we did, you can just go right into an amplifier, or you can go into a cool processor. Whatever turns you on. Fernando's already gone ahead and made the fuse holder. It's just a variation of the normal one that we do. What he had to do is add an S-bend here to mount the fuse up on top, and then screw it in, of course. So now we're gonna go ahead and put some loom over this and get it all hooked up. All right, wire's done. Alright, with subwoofer, without the subwoofer. As we like to say, this one is done.
On to the next one.
Tonight we're on our way to Kenwood Exelon training. Yay! And we're gonna bring you guys along for some of the highlights. And the road is bumpy, so I apologize. And the food?
Yeah.
Okay.
Barbecue.
Alright, here we go.
Thanks for coming out. Everybody knows Seth here. He's our Eastern Regional Training. He's now Eastern, he's now Mid, he's also Western Training. He also trains Canada, China.
So Bill, thanks for putting everything together tonight and arranging the food. It's appreciated, I'm sure, by everyone. And thanks to everyone for coming, of course, as always. The Exelon reference line, we're going to be putting more of an emphasis on it being a premium category. With the new features that we offer, it's going to be kind of into 4 different categories, right? And it's the best all the way across, all ending with the best in results is really what we're going for. So in the Exelon reference line, we talk about the higher grade audio style components that we're using, making the product sound so much better. This display is something that solves many different issues for customers. It's going to solve brightness issues. It's going to solve glare issues. It's going to solve off-axis issues. The screen technology that we've used in the past is called twisted pneumatic, okay? And that's what all the other screens that are not in the Exelon reference category have. What that basically means is when you're viewing off-axis, it washes out. These new styles of screens have 0 washout from an angle. Put yourself in a vehicle environment. Are dashboards in front of the driver for the most part? No, right? They're over to the sides. So you get that off-axis viewing experience. As we go into Exelon reference, what is constituted as Exelon reference and not? Of course, if it says XR, like the XR606 DSP, it is the Exelon reference. You have the ability to use the Kenwood DSP control app and set each channel individually, right? So that gets you your signal, basically. So that's your input, and then you have 10 channels of assignable output that you do from the app itself. These are a couple of slides that I pulled from iDataLink training that we did together a couple days ago. And some of the listing of vehicles, he said, is not completely up to date, but just as Bill has stated, now AT01, AT02, what else happens with the XR line of amplifiers? You notice that the new XR amplifiers, a couple of them have the high-res audio logo on them. Those are the multi-channel amplifiers, because the only definition to be a high-res audio compliant amplifier is if it can actually play that 40K mark. But the guts have actually changed on these amplifiers. So on the amplifiers, the things that changed, I'm not going to bore you with the details, but keep in mind, the whole idea is this. To make these amplifiers be high-res compliant, we had to change the way that they operated. We had to change the parts that are inside of them. We also had to, as you can see here, change not just the layout and the parts itself, but again, upgrading the parts. Higher grade audiophile grade capacitors, being able to actually improve the signal to noise ratio, make these amplifiers sound better, meet the definition, also be a part of the full equation, which is talking about the speakers themselves. Excellent reference, you notice they've got a nice look to them, but these are high resolution audio speakers. These are not speakers that you sell every day to every customer. High res audio speakers, two things, 40K mark, but also listening evaluation by the High Res Audio Society. So anytime a speaker manufacturer goes in and wants to have their speaker hold that high resolution audio logo, they go through a listening evaluation. What did we do with our speakers? You notice that most speakers, they have a lead wire exposed. For most speaker companies, it won't affect anything with the way that those speakers are colored. For high-res speakers, that has the ability to induce distortion. We have it into the damper itself on the speaker. There's other parts of the speaker that we've changed as well. We've made them stronger to minimize distortion. Neodymium magnet, we know they're strong. Then the big question, first time you open it up, there's no crossover in the box. Okay, we get it. We know that. We designed the mid-range driver to not need a crossover in the box. There's gonna have to be a cutoff, but we designed the speakers to play extremely high, higher than most mid-ranges would ever play, playing into the 10 kilohertz range. So what happens is, as a negative 3 dB slope, what happens is it just naturally rolls off into that tweeter range by using an inline capacitor. It's not about cost savings, it's not about anything else. When you have crossovers, LC filters, noise can come into the system. It's part of the equation that other people that may have high-res speakers may be willing to take that risk or go that direction. It's not the direction we wanted to go as a company. This presentation is much more fun today than it was last week because we can actually speak about this. So all of our receivers ship, they're wireless Android Auto ready. That doesn't mean they have it, right? When something's ready, like it's CarPlay ready, it still requires the iPhone to work. Well, same thing with wireless Android Auto ready. So we were ready. Google did not release it as an update to the Android Auto app. We had placed on those the exact phones that we had information from Google that those would be the phones that would be working upon onset. And yes, they are Google phones, okay, because they work with themselves. So the question will be, when will it work on these other phones? And the answer to that is 100% up to when Google allows it to work with them or strikes contracts with the other phone manufacturer. So if everyone heard that, I asked them about wireless CarPlay and how that will work. So unfortunately, Apple changed their specs with wireless CarPlay. And so that's why you haven't seen it from any other manufacturer after the very first one that did that allowed for wireless Apple CarPlay. Because they changed that, everyone has had to change their platforms. You're not going to see it at this point in time. It's not something that we can just turn the switch on because it requires different hardware.